Just a reminder, keep your microphones muted. At this time, we have about another minute before the meeting begins. I'm going to give it about another 30 seconds before we begin here. All right, so I just let in the last 3 folks here, and then any others that decide to join a little bit late, I'll monitor the waiting room and grant them access. But at this time, I do have 7:30 for this Tuesday of February 9th, and I'm going to go ahead and call this City Council meeting to order. With that, I ask that you remain muted and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, with the pledge completed, would the members of the councils please take a moment to unmute yourselves in preparation for the clerk to call roll. And with that, would the clerk please call roll? Clerk, are you calling roll? There might be some audio difficulties. Yeah, Judy, I think there might be some audio difficulties. We'll go ahead and give ourselves about a 30-second delay. If you want to try and dial in by a phone and then mute your computer's microphone and speakers.
Now?
Yes, faintly. I don't know if you can turn up the volume.
Okay, I had to switch headsets.
Okay, better
Sorry
now.
about that.
That's okay.
Okay, Mikhail,
Here.
Budmetz,
Present.
O'Brien,
Here.
Veneziano,
Joe, I just got a text from, she's asking to be let in.
Let me check there. There's nobody in the waiting room. It alerts me at the top here. I keep it open. I don't see anybody there.
Okay, I'll come back to her. Basasi,
Okay.
Here.
Diastis,
Present.
Sonoika,
Here.
and Veneziano.
Still not sitting in the waiting room. There's
Okay.
nobody in here. So I'll announce her presence when she arrives, and we'll take it from there. But at this point, here, you know what? There's one enter here now. So hold on. Alderman Veneziano, are you with us on the audio? Alderman Veneziano, are you on the audio now?
I am. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So that makes 7 present in tonight's City Council meeting. And with that, that does mean there is a quorum. Members of the audience who are participating in this conference call, the virtual City Council meeting, are being reminded that these proceedings are being recorded for current and future broadcast over the city's cable television channel, as well as other social media outlets. Couple quick housekeeping items to go over as I do every week. The public comments will of course be afforded to the public who are joining us on the conference line, so long as you have provided your contact credentials and the subject matter for which you would like to speak about before the deadline, which is noted of course at the top of this evening's agenda. Also, members of the public who may be present in the City Council chambers listening to the meeting, you'll also be afforded the opportunity to provide public comments should you have any. This will be done in accordance with the procedures that are applicable to public comment at an in-person meeting of a City Council, which is primarily that the member of the public must have signed in before the start of this meeting. And as always, any written comments that were submitted prior to the meeting will be read. With that said, I'll scroll down on the monitor that's being shared, and it looks like the first order of business is to approve minutes from the previous meetings. There are 2 sets of minutes for the council to approve. This first set is from January 19th, 2021 Committee of the Whole. With that, is there a show of hands for a motion to approve these minutes? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka for the first and Alderman McHale for the second. Is there any discussion, any corrections, additions, or deletions to these minutes? Wonderful. Seeing none, the question is, shall the minutes be approved? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
With 6 in favor and none opposed, those minutes are approved. This brings us to the next set of minutes, which are from January 26th. This is from the City Council meeting that took place on that evening. Again, by show of hand, is there a motion to approve these minutes? Thank you, Alderman Veneziano, and thank you for the second, Alderman Sonoyka. Are there for these sets of minutes any corrections, additions, or deletions? Seeing none, the question is, shall the minutes be approved? Will the clerk please call the roll?
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi.
Yep.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, these January 26th minutes are approved. Before we go on to the remainder of the agenda, I would like to take a moment to deviate from tonight's agenda items to introduce the Rolling Meadows Proud program. And with that, before I get into it, I'm going to ask by show of hand a motion to deviate. Thank you, Alderman Budmetz for the first and Alderman O'Brien for the second on the deviation. Is there any discussion on deviating? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, we will deviate from the standard agenda. Last year, at the end of 2020, I received an email from an individual, and I'm going to share the email in a moment. But when I received it, I forwarded it on to Manager Crumstock because it was a very sincere letter. And from the sincerity of the letter and from all that was occurring in 2020 and what obviously carries over into 2021, we thought it was a good idea to establish a program or an opportunity to recognize people or businesses within the community that are doing positive things of merit, either allowing them to be recognized for their character, their judgment, or their actions. And this first one, this inaugural recognition here goes to an individual by the name of Stephen Polis. And I can't express better than the individual who provided the accolade for Stephen and for his recognition here. So what I'm going to do is take a moment to read the letter. The individual said they didn't want to be known or recognized as the person bringing Mr. Polis forward. I did ask, I thought it would be much more heartfelt if it would come from them to Mr. Polis, but they weren't interested. And I can appreciate that and I can respect that. But as a result, after Mr. Polis's recognition, there will be future individuals and entities recognized, and those will be found in our virtual or digital platforms, such as our news and views online and throughout our social media platforms. This will be the only one that's done deviating from a current city council meeting. And so for that, I'd like to go ahead and share what this individual shared with us about Mr. Polis. So if you will, the letter begins, "Dear Mr. Mayor, I'm reaching out to endorse an exemplary member of your community. My young sons have played hockey with the Rolling Meadows Renegades for years and have been extremely fortunate to be trained and mentored by their coach, Stephen Polis. He's the youth hockey coordinator and has been with the organization for several years. While in his 20s, he was formally trained as a medic and traveled the world risking his own life for others. He is also an internationally decorated karate medalist who established and operated a karate school in New Mexico before returning to Illinois. During the 2020 pandemic and quarantine, I believe he went above and beyond to encourage our kids. He single-handedly created Zoom sessions for skills, encouragement, and engagement for these kids while they could not be together on the ice. Not only does he bring charisma, creativity, and energy to the rink, but also in all that he does. His natural ability to inspire kids, along with imparting a strong sense of equality and achievement, is unparalleled at the Rolling Meadows Park District organization. Stephen never hesitates to assist an individual if they are injured or need assistance in the rink when an issue arises. Over the years, he has stepped up numerous occasions to stabilize someone until the proper authorities could arrive on the scene. He's quick to act, he's compassionate, and always puts the safety of others above his own. Stephen not only works in Rolling Meadows, but was also born and raised there. He graduated from Rolling Meadows High School and is now raising his 2 sons in the community. If there is anything in the form of a certificate or a letter that could be awarded to him, I believe that would be very meaningful and well-deserved. Though I wish to remain anonymous in this request, I hope you find an opportunity to recognize him. Thank you for your time as well as your service to all of us, especially throughout this pandemic." And after reading that letter from Mr. Polis, I do know Stephen through a friend of a friend, through friends of friends, as Rolling Meadows often does, right? He is a good man. His heart is in the right place. He's dedicated to this community. And obviously others outside of this community who come in and participate in our Park District programs, they see that as well. And this is just the small things that we can do in return to recognize these individuals, to show them that, you know, anytime good deeds occur, somebody is watching and recognition is always available. So for that, I do believe Mr. Polis was going to be on the call. And if you are, Mr. Polis, feel free right now to, it's not like I can call you up to the front of the council chambers, but if you'd like to say a few words, please go ahead and address us now.
Mayor Gallo and the ladies and gentlemen of the city council. That letter kind of hit home a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. That was actually pretty cool. I think if anything, just reading that letter is probably all I need. Yeah, back in spring when we shut down, as everybody knows, you know, we have from, you know, your basic level, your hockey tot, all the way up through, you know, your Bantam level, which is 14U. We've got over 200, close to 300, 350 kids. And the kids that I'm in charge of, I've got about at least 200. And just to go so fast and be on the ice 2-3 times a week and then just nothing, these kids were kind of going stir crazy. And, you know, we really needed to come up with an idea. I reached out to a couple of the parents because they've been, you know, awesome with ideas. And one of them had said that, hey, what about Zoom? I figured I'm not very tech savvy. So unless I can't hit it and then it works, I'm not very good at it. But I started like learning the platform and we started doing off-ice training. I started a YouTube channel for the kiddos who, you know, didn't have the time or couldn't be on a certain day or time. So I did some trainings on YouTube. I also coordinated with the Chicago Wolves. There was an individual who trains goalies there. So he made a couple videos for me as well, and allowed me to post it on my YouTube channel for the kiddos. They seem to really enjoy it. You know, I tell their parents all the time, I'm not just, you know, there to teach your kids how to play hockey. I'm trying to teach them to be better individuals. You know, during one of my coaching sessions, I always tell the kids, what are the 2 words, you know, coaches like to hear? You know, yes, coach. Thank you, coach. You know, really implementing a lot of the behaviors, you know, and manners on the ice and off the ice. You know, to be a gracious winner and a gracious loser as well. You know, these kids are building blocks of our community, and, you know, they need all the help they can get, especially in these times. So we just figured it'd be a good idea to, you know, put on these Zoom sessions and to keep with it. I also put on with several other parents that agreed to do a couple yoga classes for the kids. They loved it. They loved watching me getting contorted and try to walk up my wall. I had a few of the kiddos who had unmuted themselves and said, "Coach, this is not going to end well." And I had my feet halfway up the wall, and yeah, she was right. I fell on my head, but I also taught a few karate classes to the kids. I've been doing that since I was 5. They seem to enjoy that. So just trying to keep these kids involved, whether they're, and we do have a lot of them, you know, from Rolling Meadows. We do share with Arlington Heights and Palatine, Elk Grove. We have some from Lake Zurich. So regardless of, you know, whether they live in Rolling Meadows, they are partaking in a program in Rolling Meadows. So I feel that we did the best we could to include them and to do whatever we could to keep them active in this really crazy time, as best as I can put it.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And, you know, they always say, if you can make an impact on one, then you've done your job. But I always believe that if you've made your impact on one, more than likely you've also impacted another. So I appreciate that for what you've done. And I know that these individuals, the parents of these students, do as well. So thank you.
Oh, no, not a problem at all. I love being out here. I just want to get back. Like you had said, I've been all over the place. I just want to come back home and get back to my community as much as I can. I was born here. I live here. I got my 2 crazy kiddos here. So
I can relate. I know the feeling, and I applaud you for that. And like everyone else, I can't wait till things start coming back to a sense of normalcy too. We just, you know, we've been holding these Zoom meetings since March 13th. We called our first hybrid meeting to begin the state of emergency here locally, and just trying to get back into some sort of sense of normalcy. But thank you for helping trying to maintain normal in these irregular times.
Oh, I couldn't have done it without these parents, these kids, and you know, the Renegade staff. I mean, we work very well together. Again, I couldn't have done it without them and my kiddos and their parents.
I don't want to make you feel like you're obligated to remain on for the rest of this evening's city council meeting, but you're more than welcome to. And I don't know if you had heard from Judy already, our deputy clerk. She will be sending home a certificate recognizing you for your actions. I mean, it's a small token. It's not as grand as the impact that you left on these kids, but you're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, or you can have yourself a wonderful night. But thank you for everything you've done.
No, thank you very much, Mayor Gallo, and ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. I really appreciate this. I really do. This is pretty cool, and I hope to see other members of the community being nominated as well. I think it would be good for the community.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now with that, like I said, we're going to continue promoting this program. We're going to continue asking that individuals bring forth another person or business whom they've recognized doing extraordinary things during these extraordinary times, and look for those in future editions of our news and views and on our social media channels. With that, I think it's time now to look for a motion to close the floor and resume this evening's meeting. Is there by show of hand? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. And thank you, Alderman Bessetti, for the second on that. Now, if there isn't any discussion on closing the floor, I'd like the clerk to please call roll.
Bessetti,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Budmats,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, the floor is now closed and we will resume on the regular set of agenda items. Next up on the mayor's report, I don't have anything to report this evening. Are there any ward reports? Alderman Sonoyka.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. In an effort to engage with Ward 7 residents and Rolling Meadows stakeholders, during the state of emergency, I will be hosting 8 a.m. virtual coffee sessions on Sundays via Zoom. Interested residents can join these calls by going to the 7th Ward Alderman page on the city website at cityrm.org and by navigating to the Government tab, then City Council, then 7th Ward Alderman. As a reminder, residents can reach out to me at any time via email at ward7@cityrm.org or by calling 847-394-8500, extension 1057. Para mejorar la comunicación entre yo y los residentes, habrá videollamadas los domingos desde el 21 de febrero antes de las reuniones oficiales para discutir los temas de la agenda. Para iniciar una sesión, visite mi página web en cityrm.org y haga clic en Government, después City Council y después 7th Ward Alderman. Y están los enlaces para las videollamadas y también siempre me puede contactar por email ward7@cityrm.org o por teléfono 847-394-8500, extensión 1057. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. Alderman Veneziano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I did get an email, or actually 2 emails from 2 different residents that wanted me to send their thanks to Public Works this past, probably 2 weeks now with all of their effort in clearing snow and keeping our streets clean. They just wanted to give a shout out to our amazing Public Works. And that's it.
Thank you for that, for bringing that up. Yep, we've definitely had quite a bit of snow events these past few days throughout the course of this week. And I think we're almost close to almost 2 feet of snowpack on the ground, which is nice for a change. Don't get me wrong, winter's not my favorite. Any further ward reports this evening? Okay. Seeing no further ward reports, now is the time that we do open up the floor to the public for the next 20 minutes. I do understand we have one individual who did sign in on that sheet. And so before I open the floor for that, I just want to lay out a couple ground rules. And it begins by saying that any person who wishes to address the City Council at this time for public comment shall be permitted to speak, but only upon the recognition of the presiding officer, and such persons shall adhere to the following provisions. Each person addressing the City Council shall state their name for the record. They will be granted no more than 5 minutes of the allotted 20 minutes in order to address the City Council. Questions and/or commentary shall be limited to city business. Comments supporting or opposing a nominated person's candidacy for elective office of the city shall be out of order. Discussion shall take place in a professional manner, of course, and commentary shall be directed to the presiding officer unless the presiding officer permits the individual to address the council members as a whole or the council members who are present. And lastly, profanity shall not be used in any form or manner. And with that, the first name that I have on the sign-in sheet is Tessa. Tessa, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes.
Okay.
So my name is Tessa Rakovich. I'm attending this meeting because I'm doing a merit badge for Boy Scouts of America. So the the merit badge is called Citizenship in the Community, and for one of the requirements, you have to attend a city council meeting. And so I'm working towards my Eagle Scout for, like, that's the highest rank in Boy Scouts. So I have a few questions. I did look at the agenda. I was wondering why you want to paint the fire hydrants. And would you re-elect new committee members if they don't show up? And how much did your economy develop over the year?
Thank you for asking us those questions. And I do believe that you had been informed in advance that unfortunately at this time we don't get into question and answer, but there will be answers to your questions provided later, correct?
Okay.
Thank you. Anything further?
No, that's it. Thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting.
You're welcome, and good luck with getting your badge. That's a good thing to aspire towards. Thank you. And with that, Tessa was the one and only signature on the sign-in sheet. And so we will go ahead and continue down beyond public comment onto items pending. We have the first item, it's line item A, ordinance number 21-03, which is to approve an ordinance confirming and extending the state of emergency within the city of Rolling Meadows due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. Thank you, Alderman Bessetti, for the second. By show of hand, is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk please call roll?
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is adopted. Moving on to line item B, ordinance number 21-04, amending the city code regarding the organization and operation of committees and commissions of the city of Rolling Meadows. This is in for second reading as well. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. Thank you for the second, Alderman Veneziano. By show of hand, is there any discussion? All right, Alderman Sonoyka first.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I met with the environmental committee last week to discuss some of these changes and see if they had any input with regards to the way that it was currently structured. We had a lot of discussion regarding this item, and there are some changes then that they would like to see. And therefore, I would like to move to amend section 9 of the ordinance to increase the number of members from 5 to 7, given the active or the very many active members that we have. And then secondly, to provide that at least 3 of the non-aldermanic members of the environmental committee must be residents of the city of Rolling Meadows, and the remaining 4 may reside outside of the city of Rolling Meadows. Let me say that one more time, because the language I have here was for 5, and we're trying to increase to 7. Let's see. And I may need the city attorney's assistance on this, because we have to have a quorum of residents per state statute of 3, plus the aldermanic representative, and then another 3, which can then be non-residents.
Yes, and that would equate to 7, Alderman Sonoyka. So it would be 3, you as an alderman, if you continue to be the aldermanic member, and then 3 residential members, and then the remaining 3 would be allowed to reside outside of the city.
So it's then to repeat that for everybody else then, to then amend section 2-752 of section 9 of the ordinance to increase the number of committee members from 5 to 7, and to then provide that at least 3 of the non-aldermanic members of the environmental committee must be residents of the city of Rolling Meadows, and the remaining 3 members may reside outside of the city of Rolling Meadows. At this time, Mr. Mayor, can I provide some background as to why that's necessary, or would that be included in the discussion aspect of that motion if it's seconded?
You know what, you can save it for the discussion part. Let's go ahead and see if there's a second to move your motion request forward, and then absolutely bring it up. So in case there is any further definition or information needed, you can provide that. But I do see Alderman Veneziano provided the second. And so we do have the motion on the floor to go ahead and move that forward. So at this time, I will ask if there's any questions or discussion on Alderman Sonoyka's amendment. So it doesn't look like any questions, but please provide the background. I think it'll help for clarity overall anyway.
Sure. So the environmental committee as a subcommittee has been active for a number of years. And this community not only includes residents within the city of Rolling Meadows, but it also includes teachers that are involved in school districts within Rolling Meadows and that serve Rolling Meadows students, and also individuals that either had lived in Rolling Meadows for very long periods of time and moved to neighboring areas and had a continued interest in regional issues, including stream bank stabilization for Salt Creek and other such larger community initiatives. And due to their increased involvement in these initiatives, we felt that it was necessary to allow them the opportunity to have leadership positions on the committee and to not exclude them from continuing to contribute and provide these services to our city. So that's the reason for these proposed changes. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions from those lengthy discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. I appreciate you bringing this forward now that the Environmental Committee is becoming its own standalone entity and not a subcommittee of the defunct Urban Affairs. So I hope that we expect other committees to kind of find their way through this evolution as well. Are there any other points of discussion on Alderman Sonoyka's proposed amendment? Okay, seeing none. Will the clerk please call the roll on the amendment and the motion for the amendment that's on the floor?
Sonoyka.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Budmetz.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
Bessetti.
Yes.
Diastis.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, the motion for the amendment carries. This brings us back to the original with the amendment included. I see Alderman Veneziano, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know Tess got a little nervous. So I am working with Tess in helping her with her badge. And so she did send me her questions and I said that we would address them on each topic. So to address her question on would we nominate another representative to a committee if they were not showing up or basically had just kind of quit participating, and to address that, I would hope as as mayor that you appoint them that would not be the case. But obviously I wanted to address her question. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for providing the clarification for Tess on that. And yes, appointments will be made. And if somebody doesn't show up for whatever reasons, we can figure out why and move forward accordingly. Any other discussion on this item, this ordinance as amended? Seeing no further discussion here, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk please call the roll?
McHale.
Yes.
Budmetz.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
Bessetti.
Yes.
Diastis.
Yes.
Sonoyka.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, that ordinance is adopted. This brings us on to line item C, ordinance number 21-05. It's to grant approval of a variation from section V-2C of the City Code, Chapter 122, City of Rolling Meadows Zoning Ordinance, to reduce the east side yard setback from 10 feet to 2.6 feet to allow a second-story addition on top of an existing foundation in an R3 zoning district at 2104 Quail Lane. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. Is there a second? Thank you, Alderman McHale, for the second. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted?
Bud
Will the clerk-
Matts.
You know, I'm sorry, I have to wait
That's
because
okay.
Alderman Diastis, it looks like he had to jump out and jump back in, and so I was letting him in at the time when I
Oh,
should have
okay,
said, will the clerk
okay,
call roll?
okay,
But I was
okay.
trying to stall for like 3 seconds, so continue.
Okay. O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is adopted. This is going to bring us to the last item, line item D, ordinance number 21-06. It's to authorize a text amendment to update section 3-5C8B BII of the City Code, Chapter 122, City of Rolling Meadows zoning ordinance regarding outdoor seating regulations. Is there, by show of hand, a motion to adopt this ordinance? Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka, for the second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I had a little bit of itch.
I think you're unmuted, Alderman Budmats. We're going to keep that quiet for a moment. Seeing no relevant discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts.
Yes, I'm sorry. I have a cast. It's driving me crazy.
Well, that makes 7 in favor and 1 with an itchy cast, of course. This meeting is definitely on for a wild ride. That ordinance is adopted. This will now bring us down to the next section of our meeting, which is the consent ordinance. They're in for first reading. It consists of 4 items, items E through H. I am going to pull line item G. Does any other alderman wish to repull another item from this series of 4? Okay, seeing no other individual requesting to pull, then the chair declares it in order for one motion to consider the 3 ordinances in one motion without debate. Do I have that motion? Thank you, Alderman McHale, and thank you, Alderman O'Brien, for the second on that motion. Then we begin with line item E, which is ordinance number 21-00. It's to approve an ordinance confirming and extending the state of emergency within the city of Rolling Meadows due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Line item F, ordinance number 21-00, at this time to amend section 6-37 entitled Restriction on the Number and Classification of Article 2 entitled Licenses of Chapter 6 entitled Alcoholic Beverages of the City Code in order to reduce the number of approved GA, which is gaming accessory licenses in the city of Rolling Meadows, which is for Anna's Red Apple of 2121 South Plum Grove Road. Then the third item here, ordinance number 21-00 at this time, is to amend Article 4 entitled Water of Chapter 110 entitled Utilities of the City Code of the City of Rolling Meadows in order to differentiate between public and private water mains and identify ownership, maintenance, and repair obligations. The question is, shall the 3 ordinances be moved forward for second reading? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
That makes 7 in favor and none opposed. So those ordinances will be moved forward for second reading. Now, circling back up to G, ordinance number 21-00 at this time is to amend a city pay plan to create a part-time fire inspector position. I pulled this because I found out late on Friday afternoon that it appears that this position will be required to be a union position. And I think that without knowing the full impact or ramifications of that, because I do understand that this was a change from what the previous conception of what this role was going to be. I would like to make a motion to postpone this so that we can address it in the next city council meeting during closed session, as this does have to relate to union positions, negotiations, compensations, etc. Is there an alderman willing to make that motion to postpone this to the next city council for closed session discussion? Thank you, Alderman McHale. Alderman Budmats, thank you for the second. Is there any further discussion on this at this time? Okay, I appreciate that. And I think it also makes sense to also give Alderman McHale some time to understand this fully. Alderman O'Brien, I see your hand up for discussion.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to confirm, because I know we did talk about this in multiple sessions before it came to this point, is I didn't think it would be impacted if it went union or not. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm going to something we should be in closed session, or Attorney Wolf, is that it's based on the number of hours. And if it stayed below that, that it would not impact any of the pension options there with the union. Has that changed also?
Are you addressing Attorney Wolf, or are you asking?
I see Manager Crumstock raise his hand, so maybe Manager Crumstock, because I thought if we stayed below the hourly threshold, which is where the cost savings was from paying current firefighters on overtime pay at a time and a half or whatever their rates are, it was going to be lower than that, but maybe something's changed if hours increased.
Yeah, and there's more to my conversation than that, which I don't want to address on a public platform, seeing as how it is union. But Manager Crumstock, with your hand up, you can address Alderman O'Brien's question.
So obviously being under around 19 hours a week, that keeps us under the IMRF threshold, which is the pension number. So that's the first part. And again, I think what the mayor's alluding to is that he wants to have the rest of the discussion back in closed session as we formatted and have had this discussion in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Manager Crumstock.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that question there? Manager Crumstock, just going to lower your hand quickly. And if there aren't any further items to discuss on this, then I would like to have the clerk call the roll to postpone this to the next council meeting when we can address it in closed session. Will the clerk call the roll?
Bessesi.
Yes.
Diastis.
Yes.
Sonoyka.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Budmats.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, we're going to postpone this until next city council meeting in closed session. Thank you all for that. Let's go ahead and scroll down here. It looks like we have in the next section of this evening's agenda is a motion to approve the payment of bills on warrant for February 9th, 2021. Is there, by show of hand, a motion to approve the warrant? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka, for the first and Alderman Bessesi for the second. Is there any discussion on the bills on warrant? Seeing none, the question is, shall the warrant be approved? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Diastis.
Yes.
Sonoyka.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Budmats.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
Bessesi.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, that warrant is now approved. This now brings us to the, excuse me, the next item on the agenda, which is the consent resolutions. This consists of 8 items this evening. They're items J through Q. Does any alderman wish to remove any of the items from the consent agenda for resolutions? Alderman Budmats, I see your hand popped up. What do you got?
Item L, please.
Item L. Any others? And just wait a moment just to see. Okay, seeing no further, The chair declares it in order for one motion to consider the 7 resolutions in a single motion without debate. Is there such a motion? Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka for the first, and Alderman McHale for the second. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into these. The first one, line item J, resolution number 21-R-08, to authorize the purchase of a structural firefighting gear, SFFG. Line item K, resolution number 21-R-09, award a contract for the purchase of a new ambulance. Line item M, which is number 21-R-11, approve an intergovernmental agreement with Cook County for funds awarded for the New Wilkie and Algonquin Intersection Improvement Project through the Invest in Cook County Grant Program. Then line item N, which is resolution number 21-R-12, it's approve a supplemental agreement as part of the primary agreement between the Geographic Information System Consortium, the GISC, and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, the MWRD, to share utility data. Moving on to line item O, which is resolution number 21-R-13, authorize expenditure of budgeted funds for painting and improvements required for the elevated water tank at 3201 Central Road. Line item P, resolution number 21-R-14, awarding a contract for SCADA server upgrade improvement project. And line item P, resolution number 21-R-15, authorize an amendment of the intergovernmental agreement relating to the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission. The question is, shall the 7 resolutions be adopted? Will the clerk please call roll?
Sonoyka,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Budmats,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, those resolutions are adopted. Now, circling back up to line item L, resolution number 21-R-10, which is to authorize the execution of a property use agreement with Rolling Meadows Community Church. Is there a motion to approve this resolution? Adopt this resolution. I did see Alderman Sonoyka's hand come up, and I did see Alderman Budmats providing the second. And Alderman Budmats, since you were the first to pull this, you are the first to go ahead and address the situation as you pull it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had conversations with staff and with Barry on this item, and I've recently, in the process, become aware that we haven't really had a conversation yet with the church about this, and this is just something that we've come up with to extend the length of time for the lease from the current 1-year renewals to a 3-year renewal. And I think that it's probably better that the city and the church should at least have some informal discussions and kind of a handshake agreement before we as a council approve the agreement, with them not even having had a chance to digest it. So, because otherwise they could be wrongly considered as unneighborly if they balked on it after we passed it as an organization or as a council. So I would just like to table this until the not next meeting, but 2 meetings from now, so that the staff has a chance to meet with the church, talk to them about the extension. Up to now, we've been paying them literally almost nothing for the use of the property for the market, for the city market. And I appreciate them being good neighbors, but I don't want to take advantage of that. And I think that we have an obligation to at least be fair with our neighbors. And so I'd like to find out if there's some way that we can serve them. Additionally, if the market is such a success, I would like to see if they would be interested in even if we could just broach the topic of having a first right of refusal for the next, I don't know, like 20 years or whatever. If they ever decide to sell the property, that the city could consider purchasing it. So those are the kinds of things I wish that the staff could talk with with the church before we actually approve an extension that they haven't seen yet. So I'm just making a motion to postpone it for a couple of meetings so that they can get this accomplished. And then if they get it accomplished earlier, that's great. We can bring it back, but it's just, I think it's a little premature for us to be looking at it right now. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Alderman Budmatz. So as I understand it, you're asking, you're making a motion to table this till at least the March 9th City Council meeting to give staff some time to make sure that there's opportunity in that language and in that negotiation to preserve that space for future city hosted events and other opportunities to be good neighbors to one another, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second to Alderman Budmatz? I see Alderman Veneziano made the second. Thank you for that. Is there any discussion on this motion to table until March 9th? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I have 2 points on that, and maybe it's for Manager Crumstock, or I see Lori's joined us too. If we do table this to March, does that impact any of our planning for potentially starting the, hopefully, somewhat normalcy of the city markets in the May timeframe? Would that curb any planning purposes and securing vendors and entertainers?
Ms. Cezak or Manager Crumstock, do you have any feedback on that time frame, and if there will be any issues that arise from pushing this out to March 9th so you can have a preliminary conversation with the community church?
Hi, this is Lori. To my knowledge, I don't think, I think we're fine with time frame. We have plenty of time to ask them to review the contract, to look it over, sign, and get back. So we're very good with time.
Great, thanks, Ms. Isak. And then Mayor Galvin, maybe this is for Alderman Budmatz. Did I say like he wanted a conversation between city and church staff about the city having right of first refusal to purchase the property? Is that even, and that might be for a later discussion. I would not be in favor, because I know we've had many discussions about that. And we don't need to go down the property that the city currently owns that we're trying to sell. But was that part of the deal on the tabling of this, is also to include a right of first refusal that we can purchase?
So not to put words in Alderman Budmatz's mouth, and I can let him speak, but you know, this city market and the events with the craft fairs have changed venues a couple of times now, and it would just be unfortunate to continue to have to change venues when residents are getting comfortable at a specific venue. And if that church decides to relocate because they want to upgrade to a larger facility or downsize to a smaller facility, there's opportunities in this negotiation to ensure that we can continue to host these events in that property in something of that capacity. And so I believe that's what Alderman Budmatz is getting at. And Alderman Budmatz, I'll allow you actually to speak for yourself, but that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for the city to become a huge landowner or Robert Barron's or anything. It's just at this point, it's a successful thing that I'm trying not to impede the ability to continue on. So, and I don't anticipate anything changing for the church. So this could be, you know, I mean, 20 years down the road, but who knows? You know, maybe none of us will get the ever chance to ever vote on it with terms, what do you call it? Term limits. But it seems to me to be prudent to that. If it's something that's successful, that we should consider making sure that we can continue to use it, because, you know, downtown property is at a minimum, and we want someplace central to hold these kind of events. And it's actually the only place that we actually have anymore.
Yeah, and I can appreciate your position and perspective, trying to look at it with a sense of tenure behind it and not just in the immediate future. And like you said, you're not expecting the church to change facilities or anything like that to happen, but it's important to make sure we can maintain the venue for the events that we have planned on our calendars. Any other items? Attorney Wolf, I see your hand is up.
Yes, and I just wanted to make the clarification that that issue regarding potential right of first refusal to purchase the property would be a completely separate agreement. It would not be a component of the land use agreement that you'll be considering in a couple weeks.
Alderman O'Brien, does that help?
That does, but it also comes up with a second question then. Attorney Wolf, do we have to split Alderman Budmatz's amendment then, that we do one? No, it can be, okay.
Yeah, no, the amendment was simply just, or it wasn't an amendment, actually. It was just simply a motion to
The table.
postpone to consider this agreement for the March 9th meeting. So there's no need to amend anything.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. All right. Doesn't look like there are any other hands up. Attorney Wolf, I just lowered yours for you, just so you know. If there aren't any other points to discuss with that, then I'll have the clerk call roll to table this until March 9th City Council meeting.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this is now postponed and tabled until March 9th. Moving along from the resolutions, we get down to other business and reports. And for this, you'll see there are 2 appointments. The first one is an Economic Development Committee appointment for the individual, a resident in the 3rd Ward. His name is Blake Goldie. You should have seen some information that he provided me early on toward the end of the year last year. I did inform him that at the time he inquired that the committees themselves, EDC and others, are not really meeting up until February now when they'll resume. And I met with the gentleman. I was appreciative of his position, his perspective, and his enthusiasm. And for that, I want to make a motion to move forward and appoint him to the Economic Development Committee. He feels he can bring sufficient information, expertise, and talent, and I feel confident that his enthusiasm will help the committee get there. So with that, by show of hand, is there a motion to appoint Blake Goldie? Thank you, Alderman Sunoika, and thank you for the second, Alderman O'Brien. Is there any discussion on this appointment? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Well, it's 7 in favor and none opposed. We will go ahead and welcome Mr. Blake Goldie to the Economic Development Committee. And then next up, we have the Police Pension Fund reappointment. And as you know, this is a reappointment of Mr. Mark Nanini. He has previously served on this committee. And after doing some inquiring and due diligence, he came with positive remarks and consideration. And he himself was inclined to continue on his tenure and be reappointed. And I have no reason to interfere with that, so long as he's gotten positive feedback from those others on the committee. And so at this time, I'm looking for a motion to reappoint Mark Nanini to the Police Pension Fund. Thank you, Alderman McHale, and thank you, Alderman Bud Matts, for the second. This time, I have the clerk call the roll on the reappointment.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, Mr. Mark Nanini can continue as planned on his efforts with the Police Pension Fund. Moving on from there, we did have the opportunity for a mayor's proclamation, but in later conversations, what we'd rather do is just provide Mr. Wenzel farewell and wish him the best of luck and new opportunities in his retirement. And he's very excited to be on his way. With that, are there any city clerk reports?
No, not tonight.
Okay, thank you. Then that'll bring us on to community items of interest. And for this, we will turn to Manager Crumstock.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I do have one more to add to the list that you have before you. We do want to reiterate that this is last week that the City Swank and Elgin Recycling will be conducting a holiday light recycling program. The boxes will be picked up next week. And again, these collection boxes are located outside of City Hall and pretty much items that are accepted include the following items: mini lights, Italian lights, C7 lights, C9 lights, rope lights, LED lights, and all lengths and everything else. If you can get it through the 20 plus inches of snow, maybe you can drop those off before they do leave here next week. As mentioned at the January 12th City Council meeting, at this time, due to COVID-19 continuing in the area, the February and March city events, namely the Taste of the Town, that was scheduled for February 27th, and the St. Patrick's Day dinner that was scheduled for March 13th are being canceled. We do want to mention that the city and Vitalent are again scheduling to have another blood drive for Thursday, February 25th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. here at City Hall, the council chambers. Due to need for social distancing, appointments are really needed for this event, and they may be scheduled by contacting Vitalent at 877-258-4825, wearing of face coverings, masks, and are recovered. Walk-ins are only accommodated if no scheduled appointments are present in the council chambers. We do want to mention that March 14th is daylight savings time. Remember to spring forward 1 hour, and it is also a smart idea to change the batteries in your smoke alarm and carbon monoxide detectors. With recent developments and recent items, we do want to mention it's also a good time to test your smoke alarm and your carbon monoxide detectors. Have you seen the February electronic news and views, or what we call the e-news and views? It is, if you have not, please visit cityrm.org. It is the sister of, obviously, the News and Views. We do want to mention and remind people that the Rolling Meadows Fire Department continues to offer home safety surveys to city's senior citizens. This senior safety program is for city residents age 65 and older. Trained fire department personnel will perform a safety survey, provide guidance to minimize the risk of fire and injury, and install fire, smoke, and carbon monoxide detectors to residents who request this home program. This program was funded and is still funded by the FEMA Fire Protection and Safety Grant. Seniors who would like to participate, please contact the fire department at 847-397-3352. We do want to mention first installment Cook County property tax bills are out, and property owners have until May 3rd to pay without any late charges. The first installment is actually due March 2nd, but thanks to an ordinance that was passed back in November, the Cook County Board of Commissioners passed, the property owners now can pay without any interest charges through May 3rd. For the City Council and for residents, majority of the property tax bills are still paid by mortgages, so we still get, typically by that March 12th is when we start getting a majority of our property tax into the city of Rolling Meadows. We do want to mention that Kung Fu Tea, located at 1643 Algonquin Road, will officially be open to the public on Friday, February 12th at 11 a.m. They are a bubble tea specialist with a selection of hot and cold drinks, including coffee and slushies. Each drink is customized, and you can choose from classic teas, milk teas, fruit teas, slushies, and more. You can also choose your toppings, sugar level, and ice levels. Toppings range from bubbles and milk caps to different types of beans and jellies. They also offer seasonal flavors and toppings. And again, they are open, but right now it's soft training, learning. They're officially open to the public on Friday, February 12th. We do want to mention, as we've been saying before, please shop, dine, and order in Rolling Meadows is more important than ever. During these times, it is significant to remember big boxes, restaurants, small businesses. The item that I do want to add, and this will actually be in our next news and views, and also we'll continue mentioning that. Thinking about a summer project, submit your permit request early so you're ready to go when the weather breaks. Unsure what you need for a permit, Community Development has started a pre-submittal consultation program that will run really until April 1st this year, but where residents can meet with a plan reviewer or an inspector for up to half an hour to discuss needed submittals documents for your project. When it starts, obviously, this year, we're going until April 1st, but the program is going to really run from December 1st through April 1st. And again, we're just kicking this off. This is a new program. But to schedule an appointment, or if you have any questions, please contact Community Development at 847-506-6030. That is items of interest for this meeting.
Thanks, Manager Crumstock. And a quick point of clarification on that Kung Fu Tea, 1643 Algonquin. Make sure if you're going, it's the 1643 that's nearest the intersection of Algonquin and Gulf Road, because we do have two 1643s on Algonquin. And I was looking at that earlier today. So I just want to make sure everyone else is aware it's at the corner of Algonquin and Gulf for Kung Fu Tea. Moving on from that item, we have Traffic Review Committee for January. Director Horn, you have anything new for us in this arena?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item to report. We had a interest in installing handicap restricted parking on a public roadway. That issue was discussed at length with the city engineer and police chief and city attorney. That request was ultimately denied for a variety of reasons. We tried to elaborate fully on the staff memo. So if there are any questions, you're more than welcome to contact staff, but that's the only item to report tonight. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Director Horn. This will bring us to circle back with Manager Crumstock on the February 16th Committee of the Whole draft agenda. Manager Crumstock.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Obviously, next week, February 16th, we will have a Committee of the Whole meeting. Right now, there are 3 items that are being prepared. Procedures for filling vacant committee and commission positions. That was requested by Alderman Diastis. Number 2 is the business license and development fee revision. That's something that we mentioned back in 2020 that we're coming back to. And then obviously the video game relief discussion, additional discussion before the City Council on now that 2020 is done and we have a better look at how those months that they were actually opening, and then some other discussion that we have with potential changes in some of our codes and wording. But those are 3 items that are on the draft at this point.
Thank you. While we're speaking about draft agendas, why don't you continue that for February 23rd's City Council meeting?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. For the last meeting of February, we do have another meeting. We will have all the second readings specifically for COVID-19, for the GA gaming accessory item. We will have obviously the removal of the part-time fire inspector, because that will now be in closed session as a personnel. We will have an amendment to the water utility. It's about the public and private water main identification ownership. That's from a past Committee of the Whole meeting discussion. We will also have the first reading of the next COVID-19 pandemic. We will also have a place setter at this point in time, depending on our discussion from the Committee of the Whole about the additional wording and potential ordinances about operator pay gaming terminals. Pay some bills. At this point in time, we hope to approve a green infrastructure, green opportunity GIGO grant. We also will be approving our forestry maintenance contract for 2021. We also will be authorizing the application of our 2021 Cook County Community Development Block Grant, CDBG funds. And then for the final one for a resolution at this point in time is authorize the certification of matching funds available in the 2021 Cook County Community Development Block Grant. We will also have, obviously, community items of interest. We'll have the December financials, the January 2021 new businesses, the 2022 budget calendar. That's when we release it, even though we're starting on the 2022 budget as staff. The Capital Improvement Committee dates, that's the release on that. And as I mentioned before, there will be a closed session at this point in time. Potentially, we'll have a union negotiation discussion. There will be 2 personnel discussions from what transpired tonight, and that is what we have now for the last meeting of February.
Thank you, Manager Crumstock. All good things from that. This brings us now to the next item on this evening's agenda, which is matters that are not on the agenda. Are there any matters that are not on the agenda that should be addressed at this time? Alderman Veneziano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know that we renewed the agreement with Colliers. I did have some residents reach out and wanted to know why there was pictures being taken at Old Firehouse 15. And so I didn't really have answers for them. I assumed that it was probably for, updating their listing. But I was hoping that staff could get council an update on, the sale of the properties that we have listed. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Veneziano. I'm sure staff can produce that for us. We see Alderman Bessesi, your hand is up.
Yes, I just want to give a quick thank you to all the residents that took time to fill out the survey regarding the chipper program. There was over 1,200 residents that filled that out and put some real thought into it. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Alderman Bessesi. It's good to see that type of engagement. Any other matters not on this evening's agenda? Well, and if not, then you will notice there is a request to go into closed session for 2 items under personnel, 5 ILCS 120/2 C1 of the Illinois Opens Meeting Act. It does require a motion and a roll call vote. And so with that, I'm looking by show of hand for a first and second on this motion. Thank you, Alderman Sunoika, and thank you, Alderman Veneziano, for the second. Is there any discussion about going into closed session? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Veneziano,
Yes.
Bessesi,
Yes.
Diastis,
Yes.
Sunoika,
Yes.
McHale,
Yes.
Bud Matts,
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, we will now enter into closed session. The audience and press are advised that we do not anticipate taking any action upon returning to open session. So I wish you all a wonderful evening and stay warm in these frigid days. Thank you.